What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of EDH Workshop. I'm MC Sebsy. Welcome to the Monkaroos channel. Today we're going to be doing Bruvac the Grandiloquent, my mill deck. Pretty excited about this one. I always used to have a mill standard deck. Was one of the funnest things ever because I liked the concept of, winning in a different way rather than just combat. So yeah, kind of based off that. Never really did much with it, just had all the remnants of the deck still left over for a while, and then one day just kind of decided, I got this commander through a jumpstart pack, and then I was like, wow, a mill commander, I can build my mill deck now, right? And I know there's a lot of blue-black mill decks, but I really wanted a mono blue. Like, that's what made me like mill, like not so much the black effects, but I love the blue effects of mill and just the aggressiveness of it, of just going hard. So yeah, today we're talking about that deck. What's up, everybody? We're here on the Mox field. This is my mill mastery deck. Commander is Bruvac the Grandiloquent. So if an opponent would mill one or more cards, they mill twice that many cards. He is a 3 mana for a 1/4. Yeah, doubles up all the mill. Very, very simple. Just exactly what mill needed. So I filled it, kind of went for a defender strategy, which is what I always kind of wanted to do with my original mill deck. I felt like with the original one, there was like too many quality cards to put in the spots, like Jace's Phantasm, like Jace Memory Adept. So, I kind of was able to put more defenders in here, especially with things like Doorkeeper. It kind of helps out. But yeah, let's start with the planeswalkers firstly. Jace Memory Adept. Remember having a full playset of these. He's got 4 loyalty for 5 mana. I can +1 him to draw a card, and target player mills a card. I can 0 him for target player to mill 10 cards. Or I can -7 him and have any number of target players each draw 20 cards. So yeah, drawing is also mill. Also, if they have less than 20 cards, they draw out. So this just helps the entire strategy. Great thing, 0, mill 10, with Bruvac on the field, mill 20. Phenomenal. Like, I only need, 5 of those activations to kill someone? Not even 4, let's say. And, that's 4 turns. Meanwhile, other stuff is going on. And then I got Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. If I would draw a card while my library has no cards in it, I win the game instead. 4 mana, 4/4. I can +1 him to target player, put the mill 2 cards and draw a card, or I can draw 7. If my library has no cards in it, I win the game. So one thing that is a big thing with mill decks, and it's funny because I have like the 2 sides of this deck. So one side is I'm going to mill out the board. I'm going to mill everybody out. I have some cards that help out. We'll get to that. And that's one plan. But there's a high chance that one plan might not work as quickly as I'm dying. And I need a way out, sort of, I can exile graveyards. I got some of that in here. But truly, there's no other thing. It's like, I just got to mill people out, and it's just going to wait and take a while. But I've realized, wait a minute, a lot of these mill cards say target player. So I've decided to make all these cards target me and mill myself out, and I have a couple of cards that'll win me that way. So if I end up to draw one of these cards and it looks like milling might not be the greatest idea, it'll actually give me a second opportunity to win, and I'll actually be able to pick up the win. Jace lets me do that. I also got Laboratory Maniac, lets me do that. So it's kind of like, if it's needing to be flipped on me, I can quickly flip and just start milling myself with my own cards, and then eventually, get off one of these wins by just milling myself out. But yeah, let's go through some of the creatures. Deranged Assistant mills me and taps for a colorless, so kind of helps in the milling myself overall. Also mana dork. Doorkeeper. So yeah, he's got a 0/4 defender, and for 3 mana tap, target player mills X, where X is the number of defender creatures I control. So I got a lot of defenders in here. Fleet Swallower is one of the few cards in the deck that makes a player mill half their deck. When I double that, that's basically their whole deck, maybe a card or 2. This one rounds up, so it'll just fully mill them out. So things like this and a couple other cards help me kind of just eliminate an opponent when needed. But Fleet Swaller is target player. Unfortunately, the one downside of milling myself is that Bruvac doesn't actually double the mill on myself, because it's only if an opponent would mill more cards. So I'd have to do it the hard way, but still pretty quickly when I only have one deck to target. Fogbank is a defender, prevents all combat damage that will be dealt to and by it, so it kind of never dies. When it blocks, Hover Barrier, defender with flying, 0/6, 3 mana, great. Imperious Mindbreaker, when it's paired with another creature, because it has Soul Bond, each of those creatures have, whenever this creature attacks, each opponent mills cards equal to its toughness. So I was mainly thinking because of my defenders, but in general, Bruvac's a 1/4. You know, I feel like a lot of these mill cards are like got big butts, you know, or anything like this. Jace's Phantasm will be a 5/5. This itself is a 1/4, so even paired with my commander, you know, it's still like milling 8, which is still great. Mnemonic Wall, Mnemonic Wall. Another wall, defender. When it enters, I get to return an instant or sorcery from my hand. A lot of them are obviously mill related. Mana Scribe enters the battlefield. Each opponent mills 3 cards, and then at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in my graveyard, that player puts the top 3 cards of his or library into his or graveyard. So mills 3 at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if I have Delirium active. But yeah, just again, mill. Loyal Drake, I'm usually going to have my commander out, so I feel like I always have access to this, and having this just draws me the card. I'm going to have some ways to protect him as well, I'm pretty sure, but you know, if my commander goes off board, then my main goal is to just recast him. So since I'm always concentrating on having commander uptime, this is beneficial. And it's a nice spot. Needed some card draw. Laboratory Maniac wins me the game. Jace's Phantasm gets +4/+4 as long as their opponent has 10 or more cards in their graveyard. Very easily done. 1 mana 5/5 flying. Jace's Mindseeker enters the battlefield. Target opponent mills 5. And then I can cast an instant or sorcery from among them without paying its mana cost. Just quality. Also big body flying. Persistent Petitioners. These cards, I'm pretty sure people know about them. You can have any number of them in your deck, and they all tap for 1 tap, and target player puts the top card of their library into the graveyard. But you could tap 4 untapped advisors, and target opponent mills 12. These work great if you have all 4 advisors. I only have 4 in the deck as to not overcrowd it with simple things like this. Also, I don't have a lot of them. But yeah, I mean, if I had maybe 2 more, I would put them in there just to have them more consistently. But, you know, once I have all 4 and or I have my commander who's also an advisor, you know, I just need at least 3 of them basically out of the deck. And if I'm milling myself, if I'm like, you know, things are happening, you know, I'm trying to like keep the game going longer, so that way my deck has a higher chance of winning. So I'm not really getting attacked much because of defender and stuff, so I feel like I'll have a chance to get them. Riptide Turtles just got flashed, but he's a 0/5 defender, quick to drop in. Sage Road Denizen, whenever another blue creature enters the battlefield, a target player puts the top 2 cards of the library into the graveyard. Again, everything is nice when it's doubled, so this is 4 cards, and I'm going to be playing a lot of blue creatures. Undead Alchemist is nice. It was always in my mill deck. Such a cool card. If a zombie I control would deal combat damage to a player, instead that player mills that many cards. And whenever a creature card is put into my opponent's graveyard from the library, exile that card, create a 2/2 black zombie. So the nice thing is this triggers when it attacks, and when it attacks it creates the zombie if it mills a creature. But it also says if a zombie I control, so the zombie tokens it creates also trigger it. On top of that, the creating of zombie tokens can just be triggered when an opponent mills a creature, so this never has to actually attack, which is nice. I was always feeling like, oh, this kind of like puts combat into mill, but like I felt like it's interesting because it itself doesn't have to attack. It just gives you triggers when a zombie deals combat damage or when you mill a creature out of an opponent. So this is just awesome. If I mill someone for, you know, say 8 with like an Imperious Mindbreaker and have this, I can get like 3-4 zombies maybe, and then those guys can just kind of go in and start milling people more, and it doubles everything they mill, right? So Vertigo Spawn. Defender. When it blocks a creature, I tap that creature, and it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So just kind of like sets a creature back, especially if it's something big, right? I can block it, jump block it, and then have it not be able to attack. Wall of Frost does the same thing. When it blocks something, it doesn't untap. Wall of Vapor. Damage dealt to Wall of Vapor by creatures it blocks is reduced to 0. So this is also kind of an indestructible combat damage wall. Wall of Runes enters the battlefield, scries 1. Wall of Lost Thought, the one that actually fits the mill theme. When it enters the battlefield, target player mills 4. Hefty 4 too for 2 mana. Obviously 8 with Bruvac. But yeah, so those are the walls. That's the creatures roughly I'm running, right? I'm just kind of like setting up defenses, trying to stay alive as long as possible. Sorceries. Bonds of Insight. Each player mills 4 cards, and then return up to 2 instant or sorcery cards from my graveyard to my hand. So I get some mill cards back, and everybody mills, including myself. So I find that like a lot of the times if it says each player, I'm kind of okay with it because I still have that self-mill strategy that I don't have to necessarily reveal, right? Because it's like, yeah, it's a mill deck, but whether I'm milling everyone or milling myself is like up to me based on situation. Chill Foreboding, each player mills 5, and I can flash it back if I mill it. Dreadwaters, target player mills X, where X is the number of lands I control. Fracture Sanity, each player mills 14, but if I cycle it, each opponent mills 4. So if I have the 3 mana, if I just have the 2 mana, if I'm just kind of like, alright, let me just like get another card, it'll be still beneficial. But 14 doubled is 28, so I'll most likely catch for that. Cast it for that. Increasing Confusion, target player mills X, which is how much money I pay, and if it was cast from the graveyard, they mill twice that many. So this doubles. So if I cast it for, let's say 7, that'll be 6 for X. Target player mills 12 because of my commander, and then I'll cast it from the graveyard next turn for 8, so 7 would be 14 because it does it twice, which would double again, so another 28 cards. That's a quarter of a deck, not bad. Mind Sculpt, player mills 7, again 14. Treasure Cruise, since I might be milling myself, this might get cheaper over time, right? Even some of these passive effects that mill everyone. And I'll be casting spells, like it'll be easy to fill up my graveyard, so Delve would be nice. Draw 3 cards for 1 mana. Traumatize, target player mills half their deck. Another one of those cards, great. Just, you know, why not, right? Tomb Scour, target player mill, what? Oh, somebody mills 5, okay. Stream of Thought, that's what I lost. Target player puts the top 4 cards of the library. And then I shuffle up the 4 cards from my graveyard into my library, and I can replicate it. What does that do? When you cast this spell, copy it for each time you paid its replicate cost. Okay, that's pretty dope. And I can choose new targets. That's not bad. I gotta ponder, set up my deck, draw a card. Aether's Bouts. Instance, I guess we're now on to. For each attacking creature, its owner puts it on top or the bottom of its library. This is great. This kind of either says you can put it on top, but I'm probably going to mill it, or you can tuck it on the bottom, but you won't ever see it again. And it gets all attacking creatures, so this is great for when I'm getting assaulted. Didn't Say Please, counter a spell, mill 3. Dream Twist, mill 3. And it's got flashback. Foil is in here. I can discard an island, just counter a spell. Very nice, especially since I'll just have like nothing's too expensive in the deck, so I'm sure to have mana. Mana Drain, gotta get that price in here, so that's in here. I pulled one of those. Counter a spell, gain colorless. Memory Lapse, counter a spell. Put that spell on top of its owner's library. This is actually really great because then I can mill it out, or they just have a dead draw of the same thing they're gonna do. Thought Scour, mill 2, and I draw a card. Thought Collapse also counters and they mill 3. And Refocus untaps a creature and I draw a card. That's in here just for some of these like Persistent Petitioners, like Doorkeeper. I have some of these. Who else? There was somebody else that I swear had an ability to tap for mana or to mill. I guess it's just the two. I think I have an enchantment that has that ability, or maybe I took it out. You know what? Maybe refocus needs to be taken out of the deck. I got a card or two that need to go in here. But yeah, I think it was in here an earlier variation when I used to have a couple more creatures that would tap to make you mill. But I think I've just like tuned them out to something better. But we'll pass on. Down to the artifacts, we have Crook of Condemnation. This exiles a card from a library or exiles all cards from all graveyards. Sorry, a card from a graveyard is what I meant to say earlier. Or it exiles all cards from all graveyards. I added this and a couple other graveyard hate cards more recently because it was made of occurrence to me that graveyard decks would benefit from me milling them. So I made a couple adjustments. Ghoul Caller's Bell. Each player mills a card. Grind Clock puts charge counters on itself, and then I could tap it, and everybody mills X, where X is the number of counters on it. So I just build this up over the time. Kefnit's Monument makes everything one cheaper. And then when I cast a creature spell, target creature an opponent controls doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So that's pretty nice. Basically, hold something down. Again, I'm just trying to stay alive around here. Lantern of the Lost enters, exiles a card from a graveyard, and then again, it can do the same, exiles all cards. Perpetual Timepiece. I can mill 2, or I can exile it and shuffle any number of target cards from my graveyard into my library. So I have this, and I swear I had Elixir of Immortality. Maybe I had Elixir prior, because I was like, you know what, worst comes to worst, maybe I don't want to be like fully milled out if like somebody makes me discard my Lab Maniac or something happens. So like Perpetual Timepiece would be nice to just kind of like recur my entire graveyard, right? Especially if I'm doing things that are milling like everybody. Trepanation Blade is great. When an equipped creature attacks, defending player reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a land. That creature gets +1/+0 for each card revealed this way, and then the player puts the revealed cards into his or her graveyard. So this is basically mill. I'm not too sure if it's changed from what I know and or has been always not mill, but I'm almost 100% certain that this is mill. I'm 90% certain this is mill, because the cards are just revealed and then they're put from the library into the graveyard, which is what it's looking for. And so this basically doubles with Bruvac, and not only that, but it gets +1/+0 for each card revealed this way twice. Right? Because they mill till they hit a land, and then they mill that much again. So regardless of hitting a land. Right? And so then the creature gets +1/+0 for each card revealed this way. So it wouldn't get the +1 for the cards that are milled after with Bruvac. It would just get +1 for each card revealed. I feel like they've changed this. This looks like Oracle text. Because if I look at my deck, I guarantee it's not that wording. Because I'm pretty sure the way I first read it was like, when a equipped creature attacks, defending player like puts the top X cards of the library into the graveyard until they hit a land. I forget what it used to be. I swear it didn't used to be hit a land. Or maybe they'd reveal and then put it into the land, and then this creature gets +1/+0 for each card like put into a graveyard this way, I swear. Maybe I could just be wrong. Either way, this doesn't give it the double buff, but it does mill cards. Tormod's Crypt, exile all players' graveyards. Staff of the Mind Magus, really just here so when I'm casting blue spells, casting islands, or playing islands, they enter, gave me a life. Again, just the stay alive game. Sands of Delirium, target player puts the top X cards of the library into the graveyard, turns mana into mill. Alright, the enchantments. These are the best parts. This is my favorite part about mill decks. Just do nothing, you mill cards. Chronic Flooding. When a land is tapped for mana, its controller mills 3. Excellent. Turn 2 on this. Boom, great start. Court of Cunning. I become the monarch. Each player mills 2 cards at the beginning of my upkeep. But if I'm the monarch, each player mills 10 cards, which is 20 with Bruvac. Curse of the Bloody Tome, one of my favorites. Having this in foil makes me oh so happy. At the beginning of Enchanted Player's upkeep, that player mills 2 cards, and it just nice happens over time, and it just always happens, you know. With Bruvac, constant 4 mill. Drown Secrets, whenever I cast a blue spell, target player mills 2 cards. Fraying Sanity, at the beginning of each end step, Enchanted Player puts the top X cards of the library into the graveyard, where X is the number of cards put into the graveyard from anywhere this turn. So this doubles up all the mill that I'm already doubling up at the end of their turn. Jace's Eraser, whenever I draw a card, I may have target player mill the top card of the library. Teferi's Tutelage, when it enters the battlefield, draw a discard, and when I draw a card, target opponent mills 2. Search for Askance is in here, because now I can just look at the top card and put it into my graveyard, and then it flips over. How do I flip this? Oh, let me do it this way. Yay. Transform into that, and I can look at the top 4 cards of my library, reveal a non-creature, non-land, put it into my hand, and the rest go bottom. It's a little nice. It triggers quickly if I just mill myself for like 3 or 4, you know, because then it already auto hits. Propaganda, Keep Alive, and then Memory Erosion. When an opponent casts a spell, the player puts the top 2 cards of the library into the graveyard. So now everybody's casting spells, they're milling cards. And then I only got 1 non-basic island, which is just Ipnu Rivulet, maybe. But I could sack it, target player mills 4. Worst comes to worst, I got a Reliquary Tower. I think I had it in mainly because of just Jace's Memory Adept. But I'm pretty sure I took it out and put it in another deck, so it might not actually be in this deck anymore. But either way, it's not the most useful. And that's the deck. It's just hard mill, like all the blue mill cards that I like. A lot of walls with Defender, and Bruvac doubling up everything. There's counter spells, there's stuff like that, and then it's got the self mill backup plan. You know, worst comes to worst, if I draw a Lab Maniac halfway to the game, and I got like Fleet Swallower and stuff like that, I can kind of like tank my library a lot quicker. But yeah, that's basically it. There's the curve, a very easy playing curve. A lot of 3-drops, a lot of 2-drops. And then very few large things. Treasure Cruise, which is technically a 2-drop. Fleet Swallower is our most expensive spell. Jace the Mindseeker has big value. And at 5 cost, we have Memory Adept, Traumatize, Aether Spouts. So yeah, pretty dope deck. There's some more stats about it. You know the deal. Check it out on Moxfield. That's the best way to check out all the stats. I'm MC Sebzi on Moxfield, MC_Sebzi. But yeah, this was my Mill Mastery deck. I really like this deck. Haven't been able to play it too much, but really excited for the things it could do. I like, you know, having this side game of just kind of like going straight for the mill. Super cool deck. I like different types of win cons. I have a lot of decks like that. But yeah, that's my mill deck. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe to the Monkaroos for a lot of this great content that we make, and let me know in the comments what commander you want to see, what deck you want to see built. I'm got tons of decks. I'm just putting up all my personal decks, so yeah, let me know what's going on, and I'll catch you guys later. Take care.